Hi Rob, my name's Kate. I want to start by reading a letter to you that I wrote, which led to an interview on Australian TV. I'll send you the link if I can. Um, I'm actually adopted, and I think it's really unfortunate that you've received such nasty responses about your adoption video. But I can sort of understand to a certain extent, as I'm sure you can, how some of these mothers felt, because the fact is, back in what we refer to as the adoption boom era in the 60s and 70s, women were made to feel like they weren't worthwhile and that they couldn't physically, mentally, emotionally provide for their children, when we know that that's not actually true. And there are plenty of single mothers these days who are looking after their children just fine, and they were made to feel like they couldn't simply because they were single women. Anyway, there was an interview on Australian television here with a mother that I actually know who lost her child, had her child stolen from her basically, and she's fighting to have an inquiry into the past adoption practices here. This was my letter response to the interview. As an adoptee from the adoption boom era, I was born and adopted in 1972, I thought I would let you know that it's not just our mothers that were traumatised by the loss of their children. We adoptees also experienced a great deal of loss of our mothers, of our true families, of our identities, and in many cases our ability to trust. Although we may have been adopted and loved by wonderful people, most of us still suffer from many psychological issues, including abandonment issues, not belonging, loneliness, low self-esteem, a lack of connection, depression, anxiety, social problems, inattention, impulsivity, defiance, aggression, attachment difficulties, learning disabilities, and substance abuse. I know that many people suffer from these issues, but it is startling how many adoptees suffer from most of them all at once. The other problem is that very few people want to know or understand that we are damaged by the experience of being adopted. We're expected to be grateful for being adopted, and it does not enter people's minds that we can be both grateful and damaged at the same time. I think the main thing I wanted to say to you is, if you want to adopt a child, please, please, please do a lot of research about what happens to the psyche when the child is taken from their natural mother. Those issues that I just mentioned, I've actually experienced most of them all at once. As I said, I know a lot of people suffer from some of those, but the fact is that I've met so many adoptees that suffer from pretty much all of them. If you look into it, you'll see that adoptees are overrepresented in prisons and in psychiatric wards, I should say. In terms of the number of adoptees in the actual population is quite a low percentage, but the number of adoptees in prison is actually quite high, as a ratio. And also, if you do adopt, I think it would just be, it's paramount that you let that child talk about how they feel about being adopted. I know that myself, if I ever spoke about being adopted, my adoptive mother, I should say, would cry and make me feel guilty about wanting to talk about it. I've since been reunited with my natural family, and the fact is that a biological connection is something that most people take for granted, and I really only understood when I was 28 years old and I finally met them for the first time. This in itself can be really jarring and lead to a massive, massive crisis. I know a lot of adoptees go through what we call the roller coaster of reunion, where we're up one day and we're down the next, and it lasts for a very long time. But at the end of it, it's worth it, because you get to reconcile more about yourself, who you are, who you thought you were all along, which I know was the case for me. I knew who I was, but I was trying to be someone that I wasn't, to make my adoptive mother happy, and that doesn't help anyone in the end, ultimately. It made me very angry at her, and I wasn't the girly girl that she wanted. So yeah, I encourage you to do as much reading as possible about it, to encourage your adopted child to talk, to ask questions about their natural family. I encourage you to have as much information as possible about the child's natural family, so that if the time comes and they do want to find them, that you can help them. And leave emotional blackmail and guilt trips out of it as much as possible. Again, I'm sorry that you copped such nasty anti-adoption responses. I don't know if I'm pro or anti-adoption, but I do know that being adopted isn't all it's cracked up to be. So best of luck with it all.